player. A couple players, actually. Bigger than you at the moment. Yeah, at the moment. Well, let's talk about Michigan Tech weekend a little bit. There was a lot of good hockey played. I thought they were two good college hockey games. They were disappointing, obviously, in the results of how we got to the end result, which was a loss and a tie, shootout win. It was nice to see our offense continue to evolve and the goal scoring continue and the distribution of scoring chances and so on. Disappointing to give up the number of goals that we've given up. To think that we've been averaging, I don't know, over the last 5 games, close to 5 goals, and we're only 500. I would have bet differently if I put those numbers together. So the good news is goal scoring is a harder thing to implement than hopefully implementing improvements in your defensive game, and we've got to focus a lot of attention on that, because if we're playing better defensively than we've obviously played, then I think most of those games end up being wins. So Tech was a good team. I give them lots of credit. I thought they played hard. They're organized. They're everything we thought they'd be, and they stayed with it, and obviously scored some goals at opportune times. I thought there was some opportunistic scoring too, but momentum shifting times that they took advantage of. So we've got to learn how to finish games, how to win games. We didn't really change and try to intentionally become more passive in either of those games. I think maybe subconsciously at times, we were in more of a prevent, not because we wanted to, but because we allowed ourselves to. And we've got to get that killer instinct and learn how to win and gain that winning experience in those situations. So North Dakota, it doesn't get easier for us. It gets tougher. They're a terrific team, talented, deep, hardworking, physical, high expectations of their program this year, so they're a legitimate NCAA tournament and championship contender. Did I read that they haven't been here since 1980? That's a long time. That's before the Miracle on Ice, right? November. So we're excited to have them here. I think fans will love it. I think it'll be another terrific test for us. So that's been the nice part for us. While we're not completely getting, for sure, the results that we want, I think we're getting better. There's no doubt in my mind that our game is getting better in most areas. And so that's the goal each week, to get better. And then ultimately the results will come. So that.
I don't know what area you may not be getting better in, and I haven't seen enough to make this judgment, but is Hildy struggling a little bit?
Yeah, I think he's fighting it. I think he's fighting a little bit, and he and I talked about it at length yesterday. So I actually think the way it worked out, I almost didn't start him on Sunday, and then obviously made a decision to put Ed in and take him out. And I think maybe that took a little bit of heat off him and gave a little bit different perspective that he can get. So I think he'll be in a good place. He's gone through these periods in his first 3 years, and I wouldn't say it's all on him. I think that there's been some frustration that has built up of pucks finding their way into the net that wouldn't normally go in. You could shoot them 100 times and they won't go in once. And there's been a series of those maybe in the last couple of weeks. So I think he'll work his way out. And I know, I have all the confidence in the world in him that his teammates do. And so he'll play his way out of that.
1980, did you play in that game?
No, that was before I got here, actually.
That was before you?
I would have got here the following. Yeah, that was November of 80, so I came in September of 81. Actually, I only played against North Dakota as a player one time, and that was in the consolation game, the third-place game in the Frozen Four in 1984 in Lake Placid. They were a good team then, too.
North Dakota's got a lot of depth and they score a lot. I think they're always one of the top teams with a lot of skill. Are you going to have to match lines this weekend, or?
Well, it's tough to match lines with their depth. We're going to have to take a total team effort, team defensive effort, not just our defense, not just our goaltending, but we've got to have a commitment to defense when we don't have the puck to try to get the puck back. And they're a good possession-based team. They're dynamic offensively. Their power play, I'm not sure what their percentage is. I just saw it earlier, but they can score. They shoot a lot of pucks. They get a lot of shots on goal, take a lot of attempts. So those will all be tests. And so we have the opportunity to get some matchups, and we'll have to kind of feel our way through it because, again, we've played some darn good. It's like playing BC. You can't just match one line. They've got too much depth. And, in fact, the line we were trying to shut down against BC we were successful with, and other lines stepped up. So that can happen with this team as well.
You guys defensively were kind of under a lot of pressure this past weekend against Tech. Will you make adjustments, if any, in preparation for this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I only thought we were only under pressure kind of the latter part of each game, and part of that is a mentality. So we'll definitely be working on that and addressing that because we want to stay on the offensive. I don't want to have a mentality here that, oh, geez, we've got 4 goals or we're 2 goals ahead and we're good. No, let's go get the next one. Let's stay on the attack. When you've got the puck, that's a pretty darn good defense. And so I thought we got away from that. And, again, it wasn't strategic. It was probably more mental than anything. We've got to fight through that. And so you put yourself in that situation. The first game, they get a late goal. Now, all of a sudden, right towards the end of the game, they get this surge. So when you give up goals at the end of periods, I don't care if it's the third period or the first period, the first and last minute of periods, those are dangerous times to give up goals, and we gave up too many of those in this particular series. So I thought most of the series was very evenly played when you look at the full games. But during key moments, they won some key moments that got them a better result than we got, and we've got to figure out how to be better in those circumstances.
Seems like Max has been coming on past 3-4 games just really to pick up his play more. He's producing more than he was maybe the first couple. Is he just starting to come on? Like, what's been going on with him? Is he just picking it up?
Yeah, I think it's a number of things. I think that I thought he started strong, and again, early in the season, I don't want to dwell on it, but with the injuries that we had, we were asking guys to play minutes that weren't reasonable. And I think that we got less quality play out of many guys because of all the minutes we were asking them to play. And since we've been getting healed up a little bit, the minutes have come down, the quality of play has increased, and I think the other part is there's been an opportunity to build some chemistry within lines. So I think his play has been pretty consistent in my mind, but I think he's playing less minutes and we're getting more quality out of it. And certainly when the puck goes in the net, it helps your confidence as well. So I like where his game's at, and I think his game's just going to continue to get better.
Tom, you mentioned how you still want to see some improvement from the team despite what they've been on. But, scoring a ton of goals, speaking of that, JT's doubled his career total in, a handful of games this year. What have you seen from him going from the offseason now through the non-conference season to just kind of keep seeing him continue to rise and become an even better hockey player?
Well, we've given JT a lot of tough love since he's been here. And as I tell him now, we're going to continue down that road because I don't want him or anybody just focusing on goal scoring as the only means to evaluate whether or not you're contributing. He's playing on a line that oftentimes is playing against some of the top lines that we're playing against in opposing teams. So your quality of game has to be good for 200 feet, not just from the offensive top of the circles down to the net. And so we remain pretty hard on him. To his credit, I think he's better embraced what we're asking him to work on. I think he's still adjusting to a fair bit of it. It's nice that he's been rewarded with some success because he can shoot it. I mean, he can shoot the puck. He's good around the net. He's scored some really nice goals, and he's made some nice plays as well. But I want to continue to see his overall game continue to evolve because you're not always going to score. You're going to go through periods in a season and in a career where, you're struggling to score. And right now it's going great, and we want it to continue that way. And I hope as he gains confidence each and every week, that will continue to happen. And yet at the same time, I want him to be able to maintain his ice time because the quality of his game is good, whether he's scoring or not. And so we put him with those two guys because those guys are two of the hardest working guys you're going to find in the game at our level. And they bring a ton of energy. And we wanted to see if that would help him raise his energy level when he plays. And we thought that their game could be complementary to his game. So I think so far, that's all been working out pretty good, and yet at the same time we want to continue for him to push his game, to work on his game, to elevate it, and he's doing a good job at that. I will tell you, in the off season, he worked both off seasons, last season and the year before. He's worked hard at it. He's worked hard at his body composition. We told him that his game has to become faster, and when he's struggling on the ice, it's because he's not moving his feet. He's not the most fleet-footed guy in the world, so it was a lot like me. I could relate to him when I talked to him. So if you're not moving your feet, you're going to be less effective, and especially even more so in the game today than when I played it. And he understands that. And so as long as he's moving his feet and he keeps doing the things, keeping his weight at the right level, that gives him a good chance to have success. And when he's having success, it helps your confidence. So I think he's playing with a good load of confidence right now.
I'm appreciating that you're a glass-half-full guy. Nothing demoralizes a team like late blown leads. So do you have a read on where the mindset of your team is going into a weekend where they'll probably have to play even better?
Well, those were tough losses, and I was really worried about it because I was brutally honest with our guys after Saturday night's loss. I was miserable, and I know if I was miserable, they were miserable, and yet we realized we don't have any time. We got to turn around and play even sooner than we normally play in an earlier game. And I thought our guys responded to that real well. Now, the way we let the game get away from us late the second night, the piece that I liked the most, and again, this is probably being glass half full, but I think our guys all recognize the quality of our game. I don't think you could watch our team and not think the quality of our play has improved immensely over the past couple years. Our team just keeps getting better. We haven't got to the point where we're getting the results that we want or we think we deserve, but we have to keep earning that. So we can't lose sight that the process is working. But maybe one of the things I left here, and I didn't feel too great leaving here on Sunday, but what I did feel pretty good about was we end up tying the game and winning a shootout. And when I walked in the locker room, there was zero satisfaction with that. Zero.
You liked that?
I liked it because that was genuine. That wasn't contrived. That was genuine. And that's telling me our mental frame is in the right place in that regard. At the same time, we have to learn how to close out those games. And until we're tested again, we don't have that opportunity. But we need to gain that experience so we can gain some confidence doing it. And that's the next step we have to take.
So stuff today about the age restriction with the Big Ten, putting that forward. Can you talk a little bit about what that process and what that's all about?
There was a proposal that was submitted amongst our coaches group by one of the Big Ten schools in general to say, hey, guys, what do you think? The sport is getting older, and for a lot of different reasons. And at one time, I know back when I was here, and I can't recite the specific legislation, but at a certain point when you came here, your eligibility clock had started, and you didn't have 4 years of eligibility because of your age. I played with two players who were really good players. One went on to play pro hockey. The other had a good career here, Harvey Smeal and Dale Krentz. Krentz went to play with the Red Wings. And those guys only had 3 years of eligibility. So while they came a year after me, they were here and they were done the same year I was. And so what's happened in college hockey is over a time period, more and more kids are sent back to junior hockey, which you don't have that in many sports because there's no club-based sports to support that. And it's allowed our sport, frankly, to get older. And so at one time, the average age of a freshman was 18 plus, then it was 19 plus, then it was 20 plus, and now it's inching. There's teams that have mostly 21-year-old freshmen. And so now you have a gap between 18-year-olds and feasibly 25-year-olds. And I think as we talked as a group of coaches and in the Big Ten specifically, that we thought, you know what, we're not interested in trying to eliminate those kids from playing because there's a lot of late bloomers and it adds to the game and there's a maturity it brings to the game, so that's positive. And yet at the same time, when does this start to stop? Are we going to start to see 22-year-old freshmen, because I'm not sure I would ever guessed it would have got as old as it is. And we certainly don't want to eliminate 18-year-olds from coming into college as they naturally should, And yet, if we continue on a path, we might be looking at only 18-year-olds who are the real elite kids who would be one and dones or a couple years and out, who might be able to be good enough to compete. So that was the theory behind it. It wasn't to hurt other programs. It's not to hurt kids. The proposal does not eliminate kids from playing. All it does is it kind of forces some decision-making of kids. I think I talked to Mel Pearson this week. He told me 5 kids on his team would have been impacted by that. Now, when you say impacted, what does that mean? Does that mean that maybe the school has to make a decision a year earlier to bring a kid in if they don't want to jeopardize the 4 years? That's the kind of thing that happens. So it's my understanding, by talking to colleagues throughout college hockey, there's a lot of unrest on it, and I get that. And yet I can tell you, me personally, fundamentally, most college athletes in most sports are, 18 to 21, 22-year-olds. And I don't think it's bad that we've crept to get a little older, but how old can you get? And I think that was the concern of the Big Ten coaches.
Tom, kind of building off that exact question, you just mentioned kind of the age range, and Jeff had told me how Humayan, I believe, is 25 years old, correct? So now, do you think that maybe part of this legislation is because the quality of hockey that these guys can play in juniors before they come to college and still get polished and things like that, versus the minutes they would get here at Michigan State at that age, or any college for that matter?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask, what their opinion might be. You're asking me, so I'll just give you mine. Like in Justin Humayan's case, the reason he's as old as he is he did come here as a 20-year-old freshman, but he had an injury in his first year, so he's been redshirted. And that's his situation. So he would have been one of the guys that would have been probably impacted by this. I guess my personal concern over the trend that's been going on for a better part of a decade, I think it's about a decade, is that I guess I'm concerned that we're going to make it difficult for 18-year-olds to come into college hockey and make an impact. And so I don't want that to happen. I'm not trying to eliminate kids from playing. But as that age variation grows, 24, 25-year-old men are men. That's what I played against in professional hockey. And, there's still a maturation process going on for 18-year-olds. So, I think our sport generally has had a pretty good blend over time. And I think, again, this proposal was not initiated to hurt any program, to hurt any kids. It's to kind of make a pause or cause for pause to say, okay, when do we start to bring these kids in? So it doesn't they don't lose eligibility, or we're not trying to eliminate kids. It would just force schools to make decisions on kids a little earlier. And even if kids came in later, maybe they were the super late bloomer, they still can play. It's not stopping them from playing.
You can tell I'm working Thanksgiving night, I need some fluff. What's your favorite part of the Thanksgiving dinner? Is it the turkey, the cranberry? So what is it?
My wife makes the best cranberry sauce in the world.
Really?
We'll save a little for you.
Cranberry
Oh,
sauce.
man, it's good.
That's the best part of the dinner?
It's the best part.
Really?
I mean, I like it all. I like it all. I like the company. I like the maybe the best part, actually. Cranberry sauce is pretty good. I thought you were looking for the meal part. The best part is, as a family, unfortunately, probably like a lot of American families today, we rarely sit down for dinner, which I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. If I could start life all over again, I would try to change it so families had dinner every night, and then go off and do what they do. And I do miss that. And so now my kids are out of the house. So this is an opportunity for at least some of them to be at the table, and they enjoy when the meal's over and you're sitting there just chit-chatting, and poking fun at each other. So that's probably the number one part, but the cranberry sauce is pretty darn good, too.
But don't you skate on Thanksgiving, too, with your family? Or
Always have. Yeah, we won't this year because we practice, but we always had at one of my rinks. The rink would be shut down, and that'd be a big deal because we'd go to the rink, and even my kids who didn't play enjoyed going out on the ice, and the dog would come out with us, and we'd invite some family members and some friends, and it was just us. So we'd go skate, and then we'd go home, and we'd watch the Lions, and if our appetite was still strong, we'd have dinner. But Lions is always an important part of the tradition as well.
Now, Tom, building off that, you guys are playing on Black Friday this year, so I know Mark mentioned at his press conference earlier, the local kids get to go home for dinner and then come back within 24 hours. How does it work for the players here? Do you guys have a team meal, or what do they do for
No, we'll do the same thing. We have a lot of local kids, and we all want to make sure that every player has a place to go. So I asked them, that was the number one thing on the agenda yesterday of our team meeting was, does anybody not have a place to go? Because we'll make sure you do. And our guys are all really good about that, making sure guys are included in things. So we have a lot of kids. They'll have a chance. We'll practice here. They'll have a chance to go home, and they'll take some of their teammates with them, have dinner, and then we'll have our normal skate procedure on Friday as we normally would. Good? Okay, what happened in 1963, on this date in 1963?
Did they bury Kennedy?
No.
He was shot 2 days prior.
Too late for Kennedy. Did you watch the Kennedy documentary the other night?
I didn't.
Oh,
Was it good?
Oh.
Yeah, I saw